Happy New Year and welcome to a Raw Chatter, talking about the stuff that really does matter. I am your host. I'm an integrative health coach, a fitness instructor, a personal trainer, and an all-round nerd when it comes to helping you connect back to your body by utilizing all aspects of brain, gut, daily lifestyle. And I'm here today to talk to you about 2024. Like everybody else, I have no doubt you have been looking back at 2023 and hopefully in a good way, looking at the things that you have achieved, the wonderful experiences that you had, and hopefully you've also been getting really honest with yourself and looking at the things that were hard, the things that were a bit of a struggle. And you've taken stock and you have got some idea, I hope, of where you want to go in 2024. Now, I am not a massive resolution fan because I am a fan of doing things differently. And if you listened to last week's podcast, it was all about doing it differently. And I don't want to re-go over what I went over on that one. But if you do, or if you haven't done any reflection yet and you want to look at actually journaling on last year, there are some reflection questions on that episode. So that is episode 15 if you want to go back and check that one out. But if you already know that you actually have now a clear idea of where you're heading and what you want to achieve this year, the most important thing is to get some clarity on just who do you need to become to make sure that you stay on track with those intentions. And I'm going to call them intentions because when we talk about resolutions and goal setting, there is definitely a school of thought, and I agree with this, that you need to write this stuff down. I'm not a fan of sharing it with other people because I think that sometimes that can put unnecessary stress on us, and it kind of reinforces this idea that we should care what other people think and that we don't want to let other people down. And actually, you're not doing it for other people. Whatever it is that you've decided you want to do and achieve this year, it's for you. It isn't for other people. And so I'm not a massive fan of sharing it. The simple reason is you may find that on the way to whatever you said you wanted to achieve, you find yourself veering off in a different direction because actually something else is calling to you more powerfully. And I'm a great fan of allowing yourself to explore all avenues and all opportunities. Sometimes I kind of look at it like this. If we open a door, we then can step through, and then in front of us there might be another 4, 5, 6 or 7 doors, and we may feel drawn to a door to begin with, and that feels like it's exactly the right place to go. But once you've gone through it, there may be another 5 or 6 or 7 doors. And this is where we've got to recognize there isn't just one path and one track to get what we want. And sometimes along the way to what we want, we discover that there's other things that actually we didn't even know were there. But now we do. We might change our intention and decide that actually we want to do this thing over here. It may still be part of your overall big idea or big intention, but in that moment, it's something that you want to veer off and take some time on focusing on. And so that's what I want you to allow yourself to do. Don't get so bogged down in steering off in a different direction that you lose the overall focus of what your actual aim is for this year. But also don't dismiss opportunities, because those opportunities through different doors may be the exact thing that will get you to your big intention much, much faster. In terms of allowing yourself to set goals, it's so important that you are radically honest with yourself at this time of year. And what do I mean by that? I mean, don't bury your head in the sand about where you are at. Because if, for example, your aim is to get out of debt, which is a great goal, if you are in debt, it makes sense. Or it could be that your aim is to start saving more than you already are. Financial goals, absolutely brilliant. But you have to know exactly where you are with your finances right now. And that means not burying your head in the sand about, what are your outgoings, what are your incomings, how much, if you are in debt, how much debt do you have, how much interest are you paying on it, all that kind of stuff, because knowing the details is important. If your goal is to change your body shape and to drop body fat, well, you kind of need to know where you're at to start with. And that means that, yes, you do need to, maybe do some measurements or use a bioimpedance scale, the one that will tell you your lean mass to your fat mass, to your visceral fat, to your subcutaneous fat. Why? Because data is important. We need to have a starting point, because without that, how do we know how well we're doing? Right? We need to keep having regular check-ins. And I don't mean that we get obsessed with checking in, but it needs to be something that you do definitely monthly. If we're talking about, credit card debts and that kind of things, you'll get a monthly statement coming through. If we're talking about you saving, you'll probably get a monthly statement for your bank account. So look at what you are doing and know what is happening, because it is so easy for you to just kind of push it to one side and think it's taking care of itself when it might not be. And so this is where I encourage you, even if it may be challenging and you don't really want to know and you do want to bury your head in the sand, now is the opportunity at the start of the year to kind of level out the playing field and know exactly where are you. That also goes for things like friendships. It goes for partnerships and relationships in your business, in your personal life, right? Honestly, get really honest with where are you? Can you envisage this partnership in your business, for example, being a long-term thing? Or actually, when you're really honest with yourself, are you now ready to move on in a different way? And maybe you're looking for a different partnership or a new collaboration. In terms of a life partner, do you need to actually sit down and talk about where you're both heading and what you're both wanting? Because a partnership is that you need to have communication, you need to have conversations. And if actually, as you're moving through life and you're getting older and you're changing, your dreams and ideals, your aspirations for your life may now be kind of branching slightly differently. Does that mean that you can still stay in a partnership? Yeah, absolutely. But or you also have to respect that the other person and you now may need to spend different amounts of time on different things because you're heading in slightly different directions. But it can be a good thing. It can be massively supportive. So really getting honest about where you're at is so important. And this is not coming from a place of judgment. You've just got to know, where am I? And then you need to ask yourself, okay, now I know what I really do want. I am going to look at what I need to do and who I need to become, and also who I need to ask help from to enable me to get to those goals, those intentions, those aims in the easiest way possible for me, right? And that might not be the fastest way, and it might not be the conventional way, but you need to look at, who am I now and who do I need to become to be able to step up? Because as I said in the episode last week, if you want things to be different, you have to become a different person. You don't just have to do things differently, you have to be different. And this is something that I am working on myself this year in a massive way. I am very much a geek who is so happy to stick my head in a book or now just listen to a load of podcasts, which I am loving because there are so many health and well-being experts, neuroscientists, and real experts in the field of fat loss and glucose. People like Dr. Robert Lustig, people like Jason Fung. There are so many people out there who are talking about the stuff that really those of us who were only in the health and wellness world got access to, but now everybody is. We got people like Stephen Bartlett on the Diary of a CEO talking to some amazing people about health. We've got Max Ludgrave talking to people. We've also got the impact theory with Tom Biu, who is also massively invested in understanding how the body works. And all of them are getting on guests who are all saying basically the same thing. We need to recognize that it's our whole body that matters when it comes to health. And if we're talking about weight loss, we really should be talking about fat loss and maintaining lean muscle mass, especially as we get older. You know, you've got people like JJ Virgin talking about how important it is for women over 40 to start weight training. And ideally, you know, under the age of 40, start to bring that in if you're not already doing it as part of your training protocol. Does it mean that we're supposed to go crazy in the gym and become, you know, obsessed with lifting weights? No, but it definitely means that we need to recognize that if we can bring in some challenges in the gym, we're going to actually be able to handle mental and emotional challenges better. The science is out there, and the fact that this is now out there on podcasts and you guys can listen to it, it's not just saved for people like me who had to read this information in research papers and geeky journals. It's phenomenal, which means that people now are going to start to question what they are being told by their doctors, by their conventional GPs. And I'm all for that. Social prescribing is coming in 2024, hopefully to be rolled out throughout the UK in 2025. It's been a long time coming, right? Lots and lots of other European countries have been doing this. We're slow on the uptake again. However, better late than never is what I say. So in terms of moving forward in this year and really getting excited and involved in your intentions, who do you need to become? So I need to become somebody who is much more visible. I need to become somebody who is showing up on social media every single day on a video or with a post, and ideally both. Instead of hiding behind just words, I need to be seen more. I need to get on the phone with people much more and have conversations. I need to be out there in person much more. I am very much comfortable being at home. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. For various reasons, that's not going to change anytime soon, which means that ideally I want to be in my bed by 8:30 at the latest. So to go out in the evening and socialize is something that I'm going to have to do, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but I'm going to have to do it. And that means that I now need to become a person who is much more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm already quite comfortable with being uncomfortable, but obviously I have not been pushing myself to get really uncomfortable often enough to make a difference to my business and to me being able to reach the people that I know that I can help. And so for those of you who are new to this podcast, who are the people who I can help? Well, I help professionals and busy people over the age of 40 to get into their best shape by not using food or alcohol or both to manage their emotions, to manage stress, to turn to as a default because they want to look and feel amazing in their own bodies. I also help people who have been yo-yo dieting for years, and I help people who are stuck in disordered eating or an eating disorder, particularly binge eating disorder, emotional eating, and stress eating. I also help people who have issues with alcohol dependence, and often alcohol issues and binge eating disorder go together. And a lot of people may not know this, but ADHD and undiagnosed ADHD is something that is coming to light more and more often. And a lot of people who have binge eating disorder and use food and alcohol or both to feel better are people with an undiagnosed ADHD issue. And so obviously I can help those people as well. And if you fall into any of those categories, then absolutely, I've been doing this for a very long time. Because of my own issues with bulimia, with emotional eating, with exercise addiction, with alcohol dependence, I now have got issues with my own health that I manage without medication. And that is my passion, folks, is to help people to recognize that medication is not the solution. It can temporarily help you to manage your symptoms better. But the solution is to look for the root cause and to deal with that. And usually medication is not the answer for that. Sometimes it is, but usually it is not. And so because of my issues, I have got 3 autoimmune issues. One of them affects my thyroid massively. It's called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which means I have done a lot of research into that to make sure that I am eating the right kinds of foods for my body and making sure that I'm not doing too much of the wrong kind of exercise that will stress out my thyroid even more and prevent me from being able to maintain a body mass, a lean body mass that feels good and is healthy for my body. You also have something called Sjogren's, which is another autoimmune issue, and rheumatoid arthritis. They are all linked to gut problems. And my gut problems were caused way back when, which I'm not going to go into detail on now, but I talk about my issues in season 1 of this podcast. And basically, leaky gut is a precursor for just about anybody with an autoimmune issue. But we also know that leaky gut is massive when it comes to mental health problems and is often undiagnosed. We also know that issues with thyroid get misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder. And we also know that vitamin and mineral deficiencies, particularly vitamin D3, B12, magnesium, in fact, all of the B vitamins and zinc will mimic depression massively. And so we can't really get away from the fact that your mind, your body, your brain are inextricably linked. And because of those autoimmune issues that put stress on my whole system, and I didn't know I had them, I did have a heart attack in 2018. And I talk about that again on my past podcast episodes. And so it was my mission back then to ensure that I am now medication free in terms of not being on statins or ACE inhibitors to avoid having a second heart attack. And touch wood, it's 2024 and I haven't. And I have no intentions of doing. But that is because I look at the body as a whole. I manage my stress. It's a huge thing. But it also means that I need to push myself into areas that perhaps I've not pushed myself before for fear of maybe stressing myself too much. And I need to recognize that it's a fine balance. But if I don't find what that fine line is, I'm not going to be able to push myself to do what I want to do in terms of my business. And that ultimately is to help millions of people worldwide to get free from the addiction to food. And remember, food that is out there that has been manufactured by the main 4 food producers, and there really is mainly 4, especially in the US and the UK, that are really only trying to get your money, folks. They are designing food that is highly palatable, that is addictive, that on purpose is chemically manufactured to hit your bliss spot and keep you coming back again and again and again. And it's working. The problem is we are paying the price with an epidemic of mental health issues, with an epidemic of diabetes, with an epidemic of obesity. And we're now heading for an epidemic of Alzheimer's and dementia. And we know that this stuff is all linked to the food that we're eating, the chemicals that are around in our environment, but also the massive stress that we are under now as adult humans and as young people too, because obesity and diabetes now is showing up in kids in infant school. And that is something that scares the pants off me. So do I have an absolute vision of being able to help people, young people in schools and their parents, to recognize that we need to look at how the body functions as a whole? The language that we're using, the food that we're eating, the air that we're breathing, the water that we're putting in, how we're breathing, how we're moving. And I am here to help you to make it simple, to get rid of all the confusion and the clutter and the so many conflicting stories that you might be hearing, the messages that you might be hearing from influencers on social media out there. And I am here, it is my mission, I believe, to give you the facts, but crucially to help you to implement the stuff that actually works for you in your life. so that you can have a life that you love in a body that feels good, that functions, and you can live longer, fitter, active, and healthier instead of living longer, feeling sicker, immobile, and losing your memory. I know which one I'm aiming for. What about you? I'm going to leave it there on that note, folks. I wish you a very, very, very happy 2024, working towards what you want to make your life as much enjoyable as it can be.